round three of Thursday Nighter for this month. And we are very lucky to have International Master Nubair back. Welcome, Nubair.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Today it's round three, and we have uh, Zager playing in this corner on the top board, and it's already the victory for corner. It was in King's Pawn opening.
And just real quick before you get into the games, I do want to do a quick bit of chess news for our state. So this past weekend, we had Minnesota Open, which is our state championship open qualifier. And kind of how that works is it qualifies you for the Minnesota Close. So Minnesota Close is class section, 6 players per section. Then they play a round robin to
Mm-hmm.
determine the actual state champions of each class section. And so I wanted to display some of the results for the people who qualified for the closed because we do have a lot of our club members who actually qualified for the closed. So let me also get
That's
this
nice.
pulled up on my other screen here where I can read a little better. But yeah, so going through here, yeah, the premier section, we kind of had a shot qualification. Arvind, who's, yeah, the New Bears video is going to be, let's see here. Okay, sorry about that. We had a shot
Mhm.
qualification. Arvind, who plays in the Thursday Nighters, or did in the past a good amount, but he's actually only rated expert rated in the 2000s, and he qualified for the Premier Closed, which is basically U2400. So
Wow.
he qualified above a lot of really strong players, and he'll be playing a round robin against the former, this not the current state champion Samrug Narayan, who's international master, and international master
Mm-hmm.
Sean Nagel, who won the tournament, and several other basically FIDE master rated players. So that's going to be a tough challenge for him, but it's pretty cool to see him qualify for that. And then in the U2200 section, we had our club president, Dane Zagar, who we're going to see tonight, qualified through a nice placement in the Minnesota
Wow.
Open. And we also had Eddie qualify. So Eddie, who's currently playing, and we're going to analyze his game. He actually qualified for the U2200 section. So he's usually playing in U2000 closed, but he's playing U2200 and going to be going up against Dane and several other 2100 plus players. And then in the U2000 closed, we actually had John Blommer qualify, who we're going to be analyzing his game tonight. And we also had Michael Perry, who we've seen some of his games in the club, Yuval. And Owen Pelletier is a channel viewer and actually commentated one week for us. So he qualified for the U2000. And yeah, and then U1700, we have Jacob Pikus, who's we're going to be analyzing his game tonight. So as we can see, yeah, in the kind of
That's nice.
broader scope of things, we had our sub club really have a lot of members, and I'm sure I missed a couple of players who were qualifying who play. And a lot of actually the club we have a lot of additional players who play on Mondays and other days of the week as well. So there's a lot of crossover with the best players in our state and the club members. But with that, we will get into the games. Just wanted to plug a little bit of chess news and congratulate all our members who qualified for the closed.
Congratulations on to all the players who has qualified for the state championships, and wish them a very, very good luck. Right from the president Zager to AD and every player who has qualified in almost all the sections, all the groups, and the people who are playing in about 2200 category. It's going to be a great learning experience for them. So, and meanwhile, I was just looking at Desmo if it is possible, but maybe not yet. There's a Queen of 6, but maybe some with some deflection or something. Okay, we'll come to this game later. Right now, let's go to the game of Zager versus Corner, which ended in result of Corner. It was Petrov defense.
I did realize I did misstate that that top section is actually totally open because the top 2 players there are 2500 plus. So
Wow,
yeah, yeah,
that's it.
USCF that is. But
Mhm.
all right, but yeah, let's get into the actual game. So I missed a bit of the opening. So what what exactly opening did they play?
It was Petrov defense.
Got it. Okay. Yep. Petrov is Dane's main. So good to see. We're not playing a sideline today. This is main stuff for Dane.
Yeah, main stuff, total main stuff. But again, the main stuff maybe is like this. If white wants to be more aggressive, or also sometimes they can play like this as well. And also up to black whether he wants to castle short or just try to play knight of six bishop moves and try to make a long castle. Many times we see that they just play knight c6 bishop e6 and make a long castle. But in this position, white itself has opted for short castle, so not a problem. And yes, black has managed to equalize the game, but also image soon he not really blundered because f5 is still there. Yeah, black is looks fine, but maybe rook d1 is coming. f4.
Yeah, I'm surprised Connor didn't go for a queenside castle. I thought usually when you're going for this development scheme, you want to castle queenside in either case.
Yeah, that's what I was also wondering, and a bit shocked. Like he went for directly castle, like, and especially in this game here black has castle first, and here he had still had an option to just make a long castle. Many times we see because white castles long, black also castles long with this setup. But Zager be like, okay, I don't care, marking is safe. I'm gonna play knight e5 next, so knight f6 if you attack marking, and Connor believed him. He just castled short, but long castle would have been more interesting game. But anyways, Connor has won it, so maybe his decision was right.
Yeah, well,
Bishop
Connor's.
f7.
Yeah, let's see what happened because I doubt it's because of the opening win. Because yeah, it seems like this is probably a newer area for Connor. Maybe not, but I know this is Dane's main.
Well, this reminds me of this setup. I mean, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I saw Firouzja losing to Hikaru like this, and it was like Firouzja completely outplayed Hikaru, and then Hikaru was completely lost, and then he found this beautiful queen sacrifice like this. Imagine if there's some piece here, and you get a chance to play queen at 6, and you checkmate with bishop d4. So in Hikaru's game, it was like the bishop was on c5, Firouzja's king was on h1, and suddenly his queen was on h3, and he was threatening a checkmate. And Hikaru played queen h4, and suddenly he cannot capture it because it was a checkmate with two bishops. Suddenly the position was looking normal. Let's say he plays queen e8. There are no threats, but bishop f7 came. Now he cannot play bishop e8. He cannot push the pawns, and there are some serious problems with bishop d4. If he doesn't play bishop f6, okay. So he plays c5, bishop g6 h6, and now g4 g5 is the idea. And if he captures, the f pawn rolls, and the problem is you cannot play bishop g5 because after capture, queen g5, g5, the bishop is dropped. The bishop drops. Suddenly there is no defense, and g5 is coming.
Interesting.
And yeah, I think the game ended quickly here. Take takes, rook g8, king h1, and again rook g1 is coming.
So where was the big misstep then?
I believe maybe there's some defense, but in simpler words, we can simply say that he could have gone for queen e8, not allowing any bishop f7 and bishop g6 business. And this looks fine. Like there is no knight coming to d5, b5 square, so it will be all right for black sooner or later. But definitely black has got some problems with the development of pieces. Like it's going to take some time for this bishop to come out, and even after, let's say, if comes out, then there is some rook d7 ideas. So black is definitely behind in development, and which definitely happened because of knight e5, I guess. If he plays knight f6, bishop e6, I think he's pretty much solid or more normal position. This allowed queen h5. Now this forces you to play f5, which weakens your king. White keeps on getting tempos. Like he could have even played rook d1 first, but then there's a queen e8. So first he plays f4. Now no queen e8 because you attack the pawn. If he captures, then the position gets open, and if black is not ready for it, so he blocks the center. Knight rook d1, and probably here he could have definitely played this move. After bishop d7, I think black is already in some danger.
Yeah, I got a question for you because this whole dynamic that happened with f4 e4, I'm a bit traumatized by it as a Sveshnikov player because it looks so nice. Hey, like I'm getting this protected pass pawn, but then I know a lot of times in my actual preparation, I really want to be playing e takes f4 so I can use the e5 square for my pieces. I don't know if that's even close to relevant for this position, but I feel like a lot of times, yeah, in my blitz games, they'll play f4. They're kind of provoking me to play e4. It looks so nice. I play e4, and then the engine ends up hating it and saying, "Oh, that's just blockaded. You're not going to get to do anything with that, and now you're never going to get to use the e5 square." What's your kind of attitude? Is that really a big asset for black, or kind of now e5's just under white's control?
All right. So yeah, it's very interesting question, and many times we face such problems, like whether it's a King's Indian, it's some kind of this opening, or many times d5, and there's nothing on d6, and the pawn is passed, and someone blocks it, and then we have doubts that whether we should have done this or not. So in short, there's one simple rule for such things. So the side getting the passed pawn, it will only benefit if the game is going to end in the end game, or you have greater chances to go into the end game. Then it will be, let's say I'm playing black, then it will be my asset, because then it's a passed pawn, and always some piece needs to be um, around to this pawn to stop it from queening. But if the game is going to end in middle game, or if the game is going to be decided in early part of the game, then this does not matter, like you have passed pawn or not. So only if you think that you can keep the position equal and the game is going to end game, then only it is recommended to have structure like this. Otherwise, it is just you have got an extra pawn, but which got blocked, and which also, like, you gain the space, so you feel good about it that it's a connected pawn, and end game I have advantage. But at the same time, you have weakened this, all the spots behind the pawn. So it could be asset at times, and it could be a liability at times. So it depends upon the position. Asset, in simple words, asset when the game is going into the end game. If you can force end game somehow, let's say I play bishop d6 here, and now this is not really working. I believe bishop g6, you play h6, and now for g4, you have simply bishop e8. Okay, you lose a pawn here, but he cannot force a checkmate yet. For g5, let's say you can take, and maybe even play queen e8, and you don't even lose a pawn. So I believe he has to take on, take on e8. Oh, sorry, take on f5 first, and play like this. But now it's not necessary for black to take on g6. He can just play queen f6 or something like that, and later he can get the pawn like this if he doesn't capture. And now there is no more threat here. So maybe something like this was necessary. And if he tries to play something like c4, c5, or b4, c4, c5, we have got queen f6 coming in on the next move, bishop e8 coming on the next move, or even one move you can play b6. So I believe here also it was okay, as long as he finds bishop d6, or as long as he gives the threat of bishop e8. But I think he took it lightly, and he did not realize the danger of g4, g5 idea. Here, okay, h6 is forced, no chance, g4. And suddenly now he realizes that, okay, g5 is coming and the king is in trouble, like, and not really no really good way. Maybe it was a time to sacrifice an exchange here to complicate things. Just play like this, maybe. And now black forces the queen trade, and now, yes, maybe this could be useful in some end games because you got the bishop here. And someday, let's say if the bishop comes here, or you try to get your king here first, and you can fight. Like, this is minus for black, but at least black can have a fight. Maybe rook d5 is coming, and it's not much. But okay, you can play g6 or something, and try to hold a bit.
Interesting.
But after this, I think it was just game over. g5, and he was one move behind or one move late to play this, because by this time he was should have taken on c6 and get queen to e8, but now it's just one move short of.
So I got one more question. Jump back to when he first played Queen H5, because I want to see how much time Dane took on his defensive move. Was danger ringing here, and he was really calculating, or did he kind of just?
Well, I think for corner it was natural to go here because it attacks 2 pawns. Anyway, he doesn't have anything, and like can still play f5 or bishop e6 and claim to be fine. Yep. So he has to go this. Okay, so f5 is more or less forced because you don't want to give a pawn. and okay, more or less everything is forced. Here, okay, you can take a decision to capture or not. Maybe he decided to play e4 because he didn't want it to have any activity like this, which is also fine. But here, okay, this was a time where he could have thought about the possibilities of queen e8 or bishop d6 as well, because playing bishop d7 is not a good idea. Irrespective of this is coming or attack is coming or not, why do you, just pin your bishop for no reason? So he could have thought about this, and here he just took 2 minutes. So I
Well,
think
I got
this
one
is the
theory at
first.
least. You know, he wants to play queen e8 and maybe bishop takes e8, if just in theory.
Sorry, queen e8. What?
Well, if he plays bishop d, maybe he wants to recapture the bishop. Maybe he didn't like playing rook takes, so he likes the idea of maybe playing. Just trying to put myself in his mind. Now maybe his next move in his mind is
Hmm.
queen e8, and he want if he play queen takes queen, he wants to play bishop takes instead for some reason, or
I
rook
agree with
takes.
you. It's a good idea if you get queen e8.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, as you said, he just maybe simply missed bishop 7 idea. Quite possible.
Mm-hmm.
And now, yeah, definitely see if I was a mistake. Something like bishop d6 would have been better option. And yeah, after this, I think it was already difficult for him to defend this. And playing this queen f8, of course, is a blunder. You could have tried queen e8 or something. Queen f8 just drops the rook. Or if he tries to play, okay, I don't recommend playing this because you hang this pawn. But the sad part is it's just bad for black. You are just gonna lose all the pawns. The rook might come to d5. It just it's probably just losing. Queen f8. And okay, this is a blunder because you drop the rook in one more. I think yeah, good game by Connor.
Yeah, he just went for a straightforward attack and just wasn't defended properly. So, okay, one more question about this. What do you think about facing people in their main? Like, you know, Dane loves to play Petrov, and maybe you play. Of course, it's hard to avoid Petrov, but if maybe you also have some sidelines. How much do you value surprising your opponent versus just playing what you're comfortable with yourself?
Well, it depends upon you. Like, if you know your opponent, maybe you can play a little bit psychological, select the openings which your opponent does not like, let's say, or maybe sometimes what happens is you have played a lot of games with the same guy, and you have to surprise them. So it depends upon these factors. Now, talking about the Petrov, like even Nepomina, she plays it like quite often at the top level, even in the World Championship matches, or he's been playing that for now so many years, but he still plays it. We have got Maxime who plays Nastrov every single game, more or less. Like he's always fighting, playing Sicilian and fighting. So it depends upon your style or the attitude or the mindset you go into the game. And so it varies. But when you know your opponent, yes, I think one should make use of the psychological factors like this. But when you don't know the opponent, I think it's just better to believe in good moves, as Fischer used to do.
Interesting. Thanks for that perspective.
Yeah,
All right, should we move on to the next game?
yeah.
In this game, we actually have video feed for still, so these guys are playing live.
Ah, that's great. So it's ED versus Miles once again, going into Spanish.
Yep, we got Eddie the qualifier for U2200 close. Everyday Eddie. Always qualifying for some section of close, but that section's a pretty nice one.
And here I believe it's B5, D5, and yeah, pretty much mainline stuff.
Wow.
So today we have more or less all the main lines.
Yeah. Yeah, we're even going to see Robert playing traditionally with the reverse Sicilian. I previewed that earlier, so this is quite the Look, we have all stone walls one week, and the next week we got all traditional main lines. They're listening.
It looks like they watched the broadcast. I mean, all the players have watched the broadcast seriously, and they took the advice of playing, something meaningful, something main lines, very very seriously. And now we are having a theoretical week here. It's all theoretical battles going on.
So is this still in master theory or what? How where?
Well, I mean, I know until C4, like this idea is very pretty common.
Oh, C4. Okay, let's stop
I
here
don't know
because this
where.
looks a little bit. that square is controlled by two pawns. How is c4 possible here?
Yeah, because it's a pen, and that's the whole idea. Like
Yes.
instead of playing normal moves like knight d2, a4, or anything else, white and because black has not castled yet, white just wants to get c4, and that is why it's playing queen e2, trying to put some pressure on d5 with rook d1. And there's no real way in which black can actually move the pieces because the pawn would hang. And after he castles, okay, he gets the c4. So that's the whole idea. To get c4, you delay the development of these pieces, and you get a good structure here because after this you're threatening, so he must capture, and okay, black gets some counterplay in return, so bishop e3. And now again, like when you capture and capture here, then the b2 hangs, so he has to come back. Knight e7, he defends the pawn very carefully. Maybe he wants to come like this or just try to get c5. Knight c3, I believe. Knight f5, he gets a tempo there. Capture.
And it
Rook
looks like
d8.
this is some pretty impressive theory because it looks like Miles was still in book until just like 2 moves ago.
Um, and also, apart from making good moves, both the players have maintained time very well on the clock. Almost same time, like 1 hour 70 minutes. And okay, the position is slightly preferable for white because it's a white bishop who's attacking the pawn and the black bishop is defending. So in simply we can say this is a good bishop versus a bad bishop position. And if white could exploit these squares, put knight and rook and queen on those squares, then it will be difficult for black to defend for a long time. Let's see what happened in the game. So by the time black could have got c5 or rook c8 ideas, but he did not get. He went for queen b5.
So
I believe this is not hanging.
has
Yeah.
black equalized at any point yet, or did White's just had a nagging pressure throughout?
Not really. Maybe around here he has equalized, but maybe around here he needs to find the correct move. Like I don't know if knight f5 works here or not because the a6 is hanging.
Mm-hmm.
But he needs to find something like this to get rid of the bishop. And if you get rid of the bishop, then yes, you have equalized. But right now the pawn is hanging, and though it's a side pawn which I have captured, I don't see a way in which black gets something in return. Maybe just c5. Just sacrifice, and like you play in the Benko Gambit, just play like that. With some compensation, maybe.
So if he did do that, how do you want to recover? Make sure that bishop doesn't get trapped.
It won't get trapped. We can always play, say, bishop d3. I mean, whatever he plays, we just come back. Because playing something like knight d2 or knight c3 may result in some problems because, as you said, like capture, and c4 might happen. And then you have to play bishop b5, and this is already very, very late, like queen b6, and now you cannot really play a4, knight b3 is coming. And it's not a good feeling as white to get into such positions.
Yeah, especially when you
So
felt
this
like you were greedy earlier. Like, oh, I grabbed a pawn and I lost my bishop. What did I do to myself?
yeah, so better is just to come back, give a threat here. And okay, maybe like this is possible. But he decided to play bishop c5 and then just queen b8. This was also fine. It was also looking fine. Maybe here he should have not taken on. Actually, it was always about one move. If black gets c5, he would have been better or absolutely fine. But white, I mean, AD just didn't allow it. Like every time he's threatening on d5 or e4, d5 and e4. So black needs to react to it. And he plays c5. I was trying to work out this tactical possibility. So the idea is knight e4, f takes e4, bishop takes, okay, queen takes, pawn is also possible, yeah. I was wondering if this was, because this was working, queen e4 and you play queen b2. And okay, the material is same. You have some ideas like knight b2 in future to make. But probably simply take on e4 is good enough. The point is now bishop b3, a3, you cannot play queen b3 as the knight hangs. And here the problem is knight and you don't have any counterplay. So this does not work. But something like this, you could have tried to work out.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good advertisement for playing a mainline opening like the Spanish because look, even when your opponent is extremely well prepared and moving extremely fast in the opening, a lot of times, just the positional merit of such a strong line, it still just gives them practical problems to deal with, even when they're well prepared. Um,
Yeah, and the game was going good from both sides. White has acquired some good squares, positional squares, and he wants to play bishop d5, but he could not. Like for example, they could not because of some back rank threats and this. So both the players played h3, h6, and now let's say bishop d5. The problem is bishop d5, rook takes d5, rook takes d5, queen d5, and white drops the b2 pawn, and it was not. It's not winning anymore. So he decides to go rook c1, trying to maybe move the queen and play something like this. He goes a5, queen a4, and now he plays d4 because there is no good way to even defend the pawn. Oops.
Okay, so what was the significance of queen a4 that
Ye-
forced d4 so much?
Yeah, because the pawn is hanging, and there is, as I said, there
A4.
is no good way to defend the pawn.
I thought you meant
So
d.
he was.
I thought you meant d5 for a second. So I was like,
So black is just trying to complicate things, trying to get rid of these pawns, and maybe the final idea or the eventual idea of black is to just to get this 4 versus 3 rook endgame, which will be a draw mostly if both the players play correctly. And he's willing to give these 3 pawns for this 2. So he's already trying to attack the bishop and the pawn with the move d4. Again, you have got this rook b5 here, simply winning the game, but he first took on e6, allowing queen e6. Maybe this is also fine. I believe we can take this or this, but then he's a bit worried about this t3d2 coming, and hence he played queen c4.
so wait,
But I didn't.
why was rook b5 so much stronger directly?
Yeah, the point is rook b5, and now there's no bishop d, or this bishop d7. Bishop d7, rook b, bishop f7 is not working. Any other tactical point if I can have? Yeah, so in general point was the queen is attacked, and if he has to go here, then we just capture with the tempo. That was the general point. But bishop b3, and I don't like playing a b3, but if you're getting a pawn, maybe you can. And but the main problem I believe is bishop d7. You think that you are better, but you're not actually, because your rook is hanging. So you cannot capture, and after he captures, there's some counterplay with d3. So maybe rook b5 is not that strong, and taking here is correct. But he needs to take the pawn, like irrespective of this pawn is dangerous or not. Because if you do not capture the material, then black is anyway going to play d3. So he needs to do something here as white. Queen c4 is not good. He can just take and play d3, I believe. Okay, capture with the 0.
So are you a fan of Miles' move d4?
Mm. This was like Miles, like it or not, like Miles had to do this move. Like that's his only hope or only counterplay in the whole game. And the best way for white is to just, if the king comes here, he just wins it. But probably he's not having enough time to bring the king, because king f1 is a d3 and you cannot play king e1. So he just went for rook d5, trying to simplify or eliminate the pawns. And we see, okay, f4 again, he had option to play c5, but he's just trying to eliminate the pawns. And maybe b3 he wants to play c5. Because if you play c5 here, there might be a3, b4 someday. Okay, you have got d3, but then you can play like this and get a pawn. So he first played rook b5, attacking the weakness. And then he goes, okay, this is a live position on the board right now. He might go c5, but there's a rook d4. And probably this is what he has missed while playing this move. And
So
thinking now.
what I am still seeing on the board though is, Eddie somehow converted his positional advantage into a rook hand game, which seems to me just, even as nice as it is, it's still a rook hand game. It could be drawish. Was there any way for him to press his advantage without going into a rook hand game, or that the minor trade was just inevitable?
Yeah, there was, I think this was simplest way, just cake, and you got to capture the pawn and just come back at some point, or just play something like d3 so that you don't lose pawns. And after d2, you have got rook d1. So this pawn is not really queening because these rooks are not active. Only one rook is supporting the pawn, and it's just supporting the pawn. The other rook needs to play the role of attacking the weaknesses or creating some counterplay by coming to e2, e1, c1. So that's not, I cannot see that's happening someday. So I believe simply taking was also good, because in this, I'm not sure white is winning this or not. Okay, white has some edge here, but if he starts pushing pawn, I don't know how exactly white is winning this, because this is quite strong. Okay, he does all this, and only because he has blundered this, it looks bad for black now. Imagine he doesn't blunder and he gets c5. It's not that bad.
Hmm.
Or imagine he plays d3 or something. You have to make some kind of a rook d1 or king f2. And okay, now you can play rook b2, attacking the pawn. Okay, you play b3 because there's no other way. There's a d2 possibility or simply rook b4 idea. So if you capture c7, then therefore hangs, e5 hangs. If you do not capture, then d2 is being threatened. So there are some chances. If king e3, maybe the pawn is getting lost. But you do have some counterplay with rook a5, I believe. And you will not like to play rook a1 in general. So maybe like this he can hold. Could have played, but instead he just played. He missed my brother c5 rook d4 idea, I guess. I think which is going to cost him a game now.
Okay, so then here's another question. I don't feel like even even pawn up with the 4-on-3. I don't feel like it's total in pawns on both sides of the board. It'd be trivial for you. I don't know if it'd be trivial for me. So what is there just like a bulletproof way to win this pawn up endgame with a 4-on-3 in a rook endgame, or um, is
In 4 versus 3 endgames, general guideline is it's a draw, and 70 to 80% of the positions draw. But the facts are it depends upon the pawn structure basically and the activity of rooks. So if you have got a great pawn structure and black just keeps on playing like this, let's say black plays very very passively, then you make a draw. But let's say if black just puts pawn in this fashion, so this is called the breakwater system. So you just make f7 g6 h5 structure or just like this, and it is easy draw because then it's very hard to break that wall or the water. So once the black gets the structure, it is mostly a draw.
but since we have queenside pawns, is it a total win or
As long as the kings are in the square, it's not a win. If the king is far away or the defending king is far away, okay, it definitely increases it gives more chances to the side which is upper pawn. But as long as the king is in the winning square, I mean the king catches the pawn, the passed pawn or the leader of the game, it should be within the drawing limits.
so then let's imagine Eddie wins d4 here. You said it's going to cost Miles the game, but to me it's going to cost Miles suffering in a 4-versus-3 endgame that he might draw, or you think this is going to be a
Quite,
straightforward win?
quite possible, quite possible. I'm not saying that black has no chances. All rook games have very good chances to make a draw. But the why I said this was mainly because it's the structure. After rook d4, also it's not easy for Miles to get rid of this two for this two. Like he cannot force the trade.
Mm-hmm.
What he could have done here maybe is to just play g5 and trying to create some counterplay. Because if he plays g5, now he cannot capture because then the e5 would hang someday. Also, this is not really possible because this hangs and he has to play g3. And if you try to play moves like f6 and all, you just try to reduce the number of pawns on the board. Then you have good drawing chances. Anyway, you're going to lose this pawn, so why not to doing the opponent's pawn structure? And now you try to play rook f5. Now you have got some weaknesses to attack. Let's say he plays rook d4, you play rook f6. And now you see it's 4 versus 3 with white having no extra pawn. I mean, sorry, white having no clear pass pawn or no connected pass pawn. So it simply means you have very good drawing chances here because it's very rare that black will lose this pawn just for nothing, and he can create counterplay with like this with O exposed king. So maybe with accurate play, it's still a win for white. Maybe if we start with rook c5 or king f2, king f3. But definitely this gives some chances to black. But if black just stays like this with passive, I think it's going to be a problem because the spawns are quite strong. It prevents black from getting any counterplay. He did play c5, and now I believe after this it's going to be even difficult for black to hold because rook d5 would come next.
Yeah, one more general rook endgame question. So if we're gonna be entering a rook endgame potentially where there's two rooks and white's a pawn up. And so if you're the defending side, do you want to keep two rooks on to because that generates more counterplay? And if you're the offensive side, you want to trade one pair of rooks if you can, or what is who wants to trade one pair of rooks, the defending side or the attacking side?
I mean, always the defending side would like to exchange the one pair of rook. I mean, okay, again, it depends, like what means of defending side, or what is attacking side. So generally we say someone who's up is attacking side, but it's not the case always. What I meant here by terms of attacking side and defending side is attack means attack on the king. So let's say I'm up a pawn, but my king is on the attack, subject to attack. Let's say his rooks are active than my rook. So generally, the side whose rooks are inactive or less active compared to the opponent would like to exchange rooks. So let's put it like this. So instead of saying the attacking side or defending side, the side which has the passive rooks should try to exchange one pair of rook, and the side which have attack against the king or some initiative should try to keep the rooks, irrespective of your upper or down a pawn.
Got
So,
it.
for example, this position, now these rooks are active rooks, and black rooks are only defending. So here, black would like to exchange rooks, because if he doesn't exchange, then this rook will again harass this one. He will just keep on attacking this one, and black has got lots of weakness to defend. So he can always attack them in multiple fashions. But imagine now this happens, and sadly the king is very very badly placed, and it's very easy for white to attack the weaknesses. But black can generate a counterplay. For example, he can play a4 here and easily get into something like 4 versus 3. And if he captures, we have got rook b4. And once he captures this, it's going to be a draw, I believe. So he has to play a5 and now rook a4. And very soon we will head into 4 versus 3, where black will have more chances to make a draw. So that's why here black should always take the rook. Otherwise, he just lost.
Perfect. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that's kind of congruent with the general rule of rook end games is rook activity matters the most. So you just want to try to get the most net rook activity possible between you and your opponent, regardless if you're up or down the pawn. And that is a good rule for rook end games that I know at least. Never go passive. You know, if, never want to get your rook
And
just defending pawn if possible. Just counterattack their pawn. Uh, Try to keep your rook active no matter what.
and one more key rule and about the rook endgames, and it's not written in any of the books, is that you usually lose only if your opponent has a pass pawn. If you do not allow your opponent, for example, here black is down a pawn, but if black does not allow white to get a pass pawn easily, black still holds it. Like as they say in the Russian books, all rook endgames are drawn, and that is why it is. But they did not mention why they are drawn. They just said all rook endgames are drawn, but they are drawn because they don't allow their opponent or the enemy to create a pass pawn. So here also, like the position looks so great for white, but we saw that, like in very soon or in 4 5 moves, the position is getting into a drawing, uh, going towards draw. So here, white could only win if he could get the king to d3. Otherwise, this a4 is coming. He needs to prevent it. Like king f2 also, there's a4 coming. Or maybe the best way here is to play rook c4, and now d3, there's a rook d4. So probably there is no. Ah, wow, there's one more tactic here. So d3, rook d4, there's a4. If you capture, you lose after rook d5. But okay, luckily this is there. So he maintains one more pawn. But what if a3? Because b4, there's rook b4 and this hangs. And if you try to be smart with this, then you don't actually win a pawn but lose another one. So g3 maybe, or king h2 maybe is the best way, so that you don't get checks. And the idea was this, but now after rook c5, there's a b4. So maybe this is the only way in which white could win this, if he captures on d4.
One more question on your pass pawn concept there, because I watched a video by Robert Plunkett, who he's actually a castle champion in the past and used to live in Minnesota, national master, and he was talked in that video about the pitch and run method in rooking games. So it really just matters not how many pawns and stuff you have. It's just how far advanced your most advanced pass pawn is. So look at all your pass pawns if you have multiple, and if you, especially if your opponent starts to go and take all your pawns, doesn't matter. Just shove your furthest pass pawn forward and let him take as many pawns as he possibly wants. You want to spend that time getting your pass pawn forward. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And in the end games, all what matters is the pass pawn because you don't win games by checkmate or something. You have to make a queen. So to make a queen, you need to create a pass pawn. To get a pass pawn, you need to clear the all the pawns in front of the pawn, uh, and 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 that's the process. So all that matters is who queens first.
I do get how that's psychologically difficult though, especially in a classical game. If you have been, say, up a pawn or maybe even up two pawns the whole game, you finally are getting to that end game. You're about to convert, but you see your opponent's rook invading you, and he's about to take back all those extra pawns that you've had the entire game. You want to try to win in your mind. You want to try to win in some way that doesn't allow any counterplay whatsoever. They don't get to take anything. I just win without them. Well, they just curl up into a ball and die. But that's not how it usually works. You usually have to, even in a totally winning position, up two pawns, some depending on the position, of course. But sometimes you will just have to let them equalize material, and you convert your material into a deep pass pawn, and that's how you actually win the game. So got to be ready
Yeah,
to do that.
that's the process, guys. We need to follow it. And it's very interesting to see that it is thinking here. Like it's very obvious that he's gonna take the pawn, but he's trying to understand that what are the running chances, or after takes, which move is actually winning because there is some a4 idea, like some counterplay is possible. So he's taking his time. Like maybe it's obvious, maybe he could have moved by the now, but if rook c4, black can also play rook d5, which is probably the only move to be in the game. And after king f2, instead of I think pushing the pawn, maybe he has to push. Otherwise, I was thinking of this. Okay, d3, king to e1, d2, king d1, and something like this needs to be played. And I'm not really sure that whether this is winning for white or not, because the king is coming very soon to here. So the only winning plan remains for white is to win this pawn somehow and then try to win with these penetrate pawns. Say g3 takes. You have got f6 and king d6. And by the time you play rook c2, he has got rook d4. Or can he play king f5? I was wondering that if this is possible somehow. What is this endgame? It looks good for white to me. So a3 probably.
Mm-hmm.
King takes e5.
Yeah, it feels like White's
King
plan
to
is pretty forced. I mean, just use the outside passer to try to and see if he hopefully
king.
he can't stop both pawns. I mean, hopefully he can't take the
Yeah.
pawn and get back is basically his only chance, right?
Yeah. This looks winning for white to me, but still there are some ideas. Or let's say he plays h4 first. Yeah, this looks winning for white. And now simply he will try to get there, try to sacrifice this pawn, win this pawn, and win this pawn. And black won't be in time to get king f8, king g8. So maybe still wins, but white needs to judge this endgame very carefully. And also there's rook d4, so this is not forced for black. Like you capture, he captures. And again, as I said, if this rook d5 comes and if he gets the pawn, only then black can win. But then black will always have this a4 at disposal. And okay, black has got some counterplay in return, so not that easy for white to convert this. Though it looks so promising, it's not that easy. In the game, we already see this happening. And now again, AD is taking his time because things are not clear. Shall we move to the next game?
Definitely, yep.
Okay, so we have seen lots of traditional and theoretical games. Let's have a look at some interesting and crazy one. So we have Blomer John playing against Robert. Oh, come on, Robert not playing any f5, b5.
Yep, Robert going mainstream this week.
Oh gosh, she's
Reverse,
playing the main line of English
reverse
Opening.
Sicilian. Yep.
Yes, it's totally purely main line. Like,
Yeah, we got it. We basically got it. If everyone can see, we basically got the Sicilian dragon in reverse.
oh my gosh. Ah, okay, at least he allows knight g5. And he didn't play knight g5. Wow. Why didn't play?
Yeah,
Was
John.
he worried
This
about
isn't. John's been moving all around, so I wouldn't say that he's ultra familiar with the reverse dragon or something.
he could have done this? And I was wondering what is the structure. Because this structure looks very, very bad. Like black is up a pawn, but look at this. And imagine I play queen e3, next castle, just make double in c file, then I capture these 2 pawns, then I capture these 2 pawns. I believe this is good for white. And he could have gone knight g5 directly because it attacks both the pieces. Instead, he went castle, and black got a chance to go back. f6 or h6 could have been better, but okay, he just goes back. And now in a very normal position, Robert is 2 tempos down because he played bishop b4 and bishop e7. And it is much better version of any dragon Sicilian, where white has 1 tempo up by playing the first move. Then he got a second tempo where he played this and now going back. So very good position for white to play.
Yeah, and that's also you can see why it's not that hard for strong players to evaluate certain positions because they just recognize it compared to what the actual main line is and realize, okay, this is just obviously a good version, even though it's reverse colors, totally different from the normal opening, but you can see it's reverse colors and black wasted some tempos. So I'm basically got a really, really, really good version of a black opening.
Definitely. And for 15 odd moves, Robert did play to the point, or he was like not sacrificing anything, but at the end of the day, he lost patience and he sacrificed a pawn here to
Well,
b7.
it wouldn't be Robert if you didn't sacrifice something at some point for activity.
Yeah. So there's and after that, he also goes for the second sacrifice. Like, if you want, to take the pawn and then give me some counterplay on the diagonal. He said he accepted it. Now white is a 2 pawn sub, and there's no counterplay on the diagonal because you can just play f3 and it's end of the story. But okay, now so Robert found some new ideas of sacrifices, and he wants to do some a2 business, I believe. Bishop f4, not interested in playing h6, defending the back rank.
Although we do got to criticize, look at John's time usage. He's blitzing the whole game. So John's a notorious blitzer. So despite winning the
One
game,
price,
he
so
didn't.
122.
He decided not to think while doing it, and he made it happen. But uh,
That's
can't
quite crazy.
can't say that I approve of the time use there.
Like, I mean, I understand if one player is playing fast, but if both the players are playing this fast in a classical game, it's hard to explain. Maybe they just don't like to play slow chess. They just want to play rapid chess, but uh, they have been forced to play classical chess because there's no rapid event.
Yeah, yeah. There's no blitz on Thursday nights, so just this is what they got. Sometimes
In
they
India,
shouldn't use their time. Go ahead.
like in like Tamil Nadu, I'm near Chennai, where like the most of the grandmasters are from. Like, they used to have like so many rapid events. Like every weekend, they do have rapid. Like in India, every weekend you do have a federated rapid event going in like 5 different cities of India. But in Tamil Nadu state or in southern part of India, they have got like 4 to 5 rapids happening in just one state, and they have got like more than 500 participants coming in, and so many people are playing. Like, this big is the boost. So what, they recently made a rule. The organization there, the state association, made a rule just 1 month ago, or from this year, let's say, that they cannot organize a rapid event unless they organize a classical one.
Yeah, really.
Yes, this is shocking, but I mean, there were just no classical events. Like, there were no meaningful classical events. Some tournaments happening under 1800 and something like that, and stuff like that. But there are no, I mean, classical events which are going for like a longer period or a week. We are just having Sunday Rapid, a weekend Rapid, Saturday Sunday Rapid, and all kinds of rapid and blitz happening every weekend, like, and in so many cities, and still they're getting so many participants. So everyone is just playing the speed chess, and the classical chess is getting like not finished, but uh, like his existence is being challenged.
That is true. And yeah, there's even some Thursday night players who are play all the time but get a little bored with the slow time controls, so they switch to faster nights. But if you think about that, actually, I think classical chess, of course, is not going anywhere, especially for big weekend tournaments or whatnot. But everyone is getting into the speed chess, right? And everyone is, I think, also playing a lot of 3+0 in their free time. So
Yeah,
if you actually do the classical training, you actually could potentially have a big advantage, right? Because people aren't used to sitting there calculating unless they play a lot of classical, but those people will get natural practice at the board. But if you calculate your moves deliberately and thoroughly, and you also maybe get good at end games, get good at rook end games, right? Not like you're getting a lot of great rook end game practice in 3+0. So you could run into a lot of opponents who have great openings and great 1-2 move tactics from all their blitz, but if you actually know how to use your time, calculate, and play endings, you can actually get some upsets on those players, even if they're maybe stronger than you tactically.
yeah. Okay, let's come back to the game and see how did John convert this 2 pawns up. I believe, as I said. Wait, why is he playing e4 when he can just play f3? And like he should try to just win this pawn for free, this pawn for free. Like those are weaknesses because, but instead he's playing e4, allowing
Yes,
impassion and trouble, like all trouble for your king.
he wants he wants to defend along the second rank with his queen.
Yes, but when you can just play f3, why to do this? Okay, I understand he wants to play e4, but you do open diagonal, you do open things. Like why? Just uh,
It's because he didn't even think. He just
yeah, because I don't think. Yeah, absolutely, because they don't want to think. They don't want to think. That's the point. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Now we can just exchange queens, but no, there's very simple idea here. You play this, he goes here, and you strike with this, and you win game in 2 moves. Oh, sorry,
that's
no, it's not winning here. It's not. It's
yeah,
not
no,
winning here. Sorry, sorry.
bishop controls.
All right. Yeah,
That's
but he could
why.
have done something like this.
Well, yeah, that's
Try
why.
to exchange.
If he keeps playing at this blistering pace, there's a chance he would actually make a mistake like that, though.
Yeah, but instead, they want to play. Okay, now he's attacking, trying to attack this pawn, which is like defended very well. So he makes a triple attack, and after queen h4, I don't know what he's gonna do. Okay, he goes bishop d4, and now why does he allow rook f7? Because he did not think. I mean, it was absolutely fine. There's no problem here. You just play at 6, you play any move on earth, and it's fine. But he just played queen h5 last move to defend that 7, and he forgets that. And he plays queen b5 without thinking. And now John strikes rook f7 in 30 seconds. And he also allows this and designs. I think for Robert, he should not play normal lines. Because if you ruin something which is very, you build something, like you made a good foundation, you build something, you work hard on something, and then you just demolish it.
Yeah.
Like he played a good opening, a very meaningful, like we don't expect from him, and then he does not live to the expectation of the people. Look how he did. It was like 10 moves ago. It was a very nice opening, right? Everything under control. He has got center control. He has got good development. He has created some positional weakness for his opponent, and so many things. And now we see this push after 10 moves. He's getting checkmate on g7. Like,
Well, it was well played by John as well. So
yeah.
even though he was moving too fast, the moves were definitely punishing Robert's play. So
All right. What to say? A good game by John indeed.
but I am glad to see a bit of a reverse Sicilian, so that's interesting. And yeah,
Hmm.
it does give a little bit of endorsement for the dragon, and you can see what type of piece activity you can get if you get good versions of the dragon. So yeah, it's hard to play the dragon when your opponent plays Maraxu Bind or Yugoslav and they know all their theory and they're playing the most critical moves. But if you can really get that full structure fully developed without your opponent playing a critical setup against it, it's pretty nice.
Yeah. And we have one more game from the Premier section where Nathan is still playing against Thomas. And
We
we
got we
have
got a battle of national masters here. So
nice to see a good matchup, more similar ratings. Okay, so he gives the bishop.
and they've both been national masters probably since the '90s. So
So experienced match.
yep.
And okay, Howard is playing only one game today, so um he's having full creativity today, playing G4, then making castle. So sounds good. 27 H4,
See,
H5 is the idea.
this almost looks like a Sicilian dragon, except for we just haven't had C5 played yet. We got E5 played
Yeah,
instead.
yeah. So this is like some kind of black is basically playing some King's Indian setup, and white is playing some sidelines with double fianchetto or I don't know, unusual lines is what they say in chess base. But black is playing King's Indian, and here I'm shocked a bit. Like he played bishop e2 in the game, but why not just h5? Because I'm not sure where we want our bishop yet.
And H5 is just kind of a nice when you can get it in because you're preventing them from playing H5. And you don't have to play H6. You don't have to play H takes G6. You can just sit on it for a while if you want to, because it's almost never going to make sense for them to play G takes H5.
Absolutely. And if your last move is h4, then I think if your opponent does not prevent h5, you should just go h5. Like there's no room for any bishop e2 or bishop d3. You just go h5 because you want to open the file.
And then I'm never quite. I mean, H5 makes perfect sense to me, but then I'm never quite sure on whether to play H6, play against that piece, play H takes G. Also, a lot of strong players when they get that dynamic against me, they like to just leave the tension for a long time. They don't take or push.
Absolutely, that's the correct thing to do. So when you're not sure about pushing or taking on g6, then just keep the tension. You just improve bishop d3, queen h3, make double, triple, and whatever you want to do, just do it. And or even bishop d3, say let's say some b5, bishop d3, some c5, and here you have this g5 idea as well. Now you think that okay, you're sacrificing, you are losing a pawn, but this is just winning. You take, and you've got queen h5. The h7 drops, and the game ends, more or less. Okay, well, you can play some rook move, but take, and eventually it will be over after the rook joins the party. Just an example purpose, I showed this line that even like this is possible, not only these two options.
Yeah, from my studies too, just whenever that G pawn G6 pawn moves, it
Mhm.
it leads to extreme duress for that king because I've also noticed a lot of times when you have to play G takes F5, even if it's a pawn stack, sometimes then they'll route in with knight H4, knight F5, and just mate you, and it's like okay,
Mhm.
I guess G takes F5 is not, but
Not an idea, yeah.
depends on the position, of course, but be very careful with allowing that G
So
pawn to get isolated because then those two light squares are big entry points.
in the game, he decides to take on the d4, trying to open up the center so that somehow the flank attack gets less attention, and he gets his pieces activated and rolling. But why he's not defending this pawn? Like it just takes one move to play king b1, and black has no counterplay. But like last 5 moves, this pawn is hanging. Okay, he was attacking something and giving threats. Maybe his threats are also serious. But why on the earth you allow queen a2, knight d5, and trouble for your own king? In my opinion, you could have just captured this. Like whatever happens after this. That can be seen later. He just needs to do these 2 moves and create problem for white.
Maybe he's just thinking, A1's covered by my bishop. I'm just not worried about queen takes A2, even though all that matters is time. But it's showing, yeah, also got to take some time to play your classy defensive moves on your side of
I
the board.
agree with I agree with you, but as I said, like if you play h4 last move, then your next move should be h5. The same way, if you play queen a5 with the threat of queen a2, and if your opponent does not defend it, then it makes sense to take the pawn. Okay, you played f4, maybe not here because you're losing a knight, but after this, you have to do this. Like you like it or not, just take the pawn.
Yeah, maybe too much psychology going on here because they're saying, "Oh, you're going to allow h5? Well, then I won't play it. Oh, you're going to allow queen takes a2? Well, okay, I guess I won't play that."
And this could happen when you
I'm not gonna do what you want. I'm not gonna do what you're allowing me to do, because you must have some plan that I don't see.
yeah. So here the game is not about the good modes; it's all about the psychological warfare is going on here.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe in John's game too, maybe some of that's with the speed, right? My opponent's moving fast. He's not gonna move faster than me. You kidding me? I'll move faster than you.
Uh, Can I play rook at 7, king at 7, queen h3, king g at 27, bishop d4? Maybe not. I was looking at the line, something like this, if I could do, because I have got this move followed by this. But whenever I see, my king being like this,
Yeah,
like this is coming, this is coming, this is coming, and the first thing coming to my mind is why all this is coming. Like not because I'm winning or losing. Otherwise, this would have been a very nice variation to look out. Like maybe this is not great because of this, but you can play this first, and now you get a check, but there's a rook e7, and I don't like you getting. I mean, black party didn't checkmate with queen a3 idea. So
wait, rook h7, queen h8, and if you take the rook, then black's gonna have time to mate you.
no, rook at 7 he can just take on king at 7. No, then what did you say?
No, I meant in your line when he played bishop takes bishop. I thought you said you could play rook e7 instead of recapturing the bishop along queen takes knight.
I want bishop because the bishop is very, very dangerous. And the moment I eliminate the bishop, I'm threatening a checkmate here.
Yeah, I misunderstood there. Instead of king takes bishop, I thought you said rook e7.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there was a line with 27 also in which you can get rook e7. Because if the rook h1 comes and some counterplay comes, it could be a problem. But black is quite safe here. And it just takes 2 moves for him to deliver a checkmate. So white is not in time, definitely. So he goes bishop c4. Again, okay, I understand why he wants bishop c4, but why keeping everything hanging? So this came finally. Knight b6 is coming. Maybe he could have also started with knight b6 directly, but okay, he would decide to give a check.
Don't play bishop b2 and hang mate in 1.
Yeah. Just a moment.
I'm gonna grab some water myself.
So knight b6 and c3. Now look, just because of not playing one move, he had to end up playing or weakening the king. And if I'm not wrong, what if he just captures twice? Isn't this a game over?
So
Yeah, he took, and he took. And he's going to lose the queen next move. Okay, king a1, and he's going to give the rook as well. But what if rook e2? The queen hangs. Okay, but
threatening 2 mates.
And is he going to checkmate? Who is going to checkmate here? Oh wow! I believe there's direct win here. Takes. So can I play this rook e2?
Shocking.
No, not really, because queen e2 and there's no this. And knight c4, he has got queen c4 luckily. So I'm threatening a mate and mate.
What about bishop takes? Oh yeah, then it's mate.
That's gone. That's game over. So it doesn't work yet. And again, rook e2 is not possible because the queen is under attack. So okay, you need to play up a pawn. Okay, should be winning in my opinion because, but I believe we could have kept the queen on a6 because why not to keep the checkmate threat on and simply get d5 or rook e2 next? Because if you keep queen there, then he cannot move the queen from the defense. Maybe what he was worried about is what if he attacks the rook? But it's very simple. You don't need to defend the knight when you can attack the queen. Okay, so he played queen b4, and then rook d2 happened. Rook e7 defense, everything. And yeah, this is just lost.
Okay,
So
but also why in all these positions why was rook d2 so winning if he has rook or rook e2 if he has rook d2? So let's say he did
yeah,
play. Let's say if he did play queen a6 instead.
yeah. So the point of queen a6 is very simple. You want to keep attack on the a2.
Yeah, but let's just say he plays rook d2 now to prevent rook e2.
Yeah, rook d2 you can play. And okay, again, I'll play the same thing or anything like, okay, I want to kick the knight, honestly. But then this pawn is hanging. So how do I get this done? Do I need to defend the pawn? Let's say you take and I don't have rook e8. Maybe, maybe. But in general, like you should keep attack on the weakness. Rook d2. Okay, fine. And now this is being threatened, or queen s3 is being threatened. So this is needed. Maybe that's why queen b4 is more safer. But okay, can I just go some kind of a d5 or b5 here? Well, this move is simple, like 94, but then you don't attack anymore. And but yeah, maybe this is the way. 94 and next move you play b5.
I control d6.
And you defend d6, you move the knight to the bad place, and then again you can come to c3 or anything, like you can also get b4 knight c3. Maybe like this. But even this is also fine. What he played in the game, he gets this. But now again, can he play queen b3 here? Rook into rook, rook takes rook, rook takes rook, and queen c4. Possible, but it's not checkmating, so he decided to keep it simple. But wait a sec, what if he plays queen e2 here? Isn't this a blunder? Not yet, because takes, a b4 rook a2 is a mate. Interesting stuff by Thomas there. And this is a checkmate. So he took rook to b2, and we may witness rook to e2.
It's looking scary.
Yeah, this endgame is completely winning. Like you play rook e2, and I believe this is the only move again. Because if you capture, you get checkmated. So you need to play something like rook c1, attacking the knight. And now, okay, of course, you can take or simply play knight b5 as well. Taking is good. And you attack the pawn, and I believe all the pawns will be lost sooner or later. Black is up a pawn and about to get 3-4.
Yep, and this is no rook in game. You got the knights on, so you'll really be able to press the extra pawns.
Yeah, game over, more or less. Meanwhile, we have some update in the Miles versus AD game, where AD is down to 2 minutes, and we are witnessing the same, which we discussed. King f2, d3, rook c1, and g5. Exactly the same moves which we discussed. Now takes, and we may have king f5, and that and if you land into the king pawn endgame, that would be too much to protect. But that is lost for black, so I don't think he should go there. But he can get some rook d4 or something. Let's see.
Well, do we have 7 or 8 boards tonight?
We should also go. I think we should also have a look at the game from the open section, right?
Yeah, we
So
got
we
5
have
more
got,
boards, and we only got 30
yeah, we
minutes
have
left
4
in the
more boards.
broadcast. So let's get to the open games.
And the best part is all the 4 games are going on. This is the one between Agam and Norman,
Okay, so
where White has got.
this is actually Premier then too. So Ronan's so
Ah, okay.
because Ronan always plays Premier, but it's Norm kind of floats between the two sections as a house player. So,
Hmm. So White has got the bishop pair, but the sad part is one bishop is behind the pawn, and the position is kind of semi-closed yet. So White cannot prove something. But good news is he has got a pawn here recently, but he has got pawn long. Okay, wow. Black just blundered this pawn. Like it was a normal game, and for no reason, Black just gave the pawn. Or maybe he gave the pawn for the activity of rooks, which never happened. And then why on earth you play g5? Just to become this?
wants to prevent
Well, to
f4.
for me, it's very hard to understand. Like, I mean, look, everything was good, the life was good. You had just played bishop e6, and your opponent has refused the exchange. And now everyone can say that this bishop is better than this bishop. Fine, okay, everything is good. You can play anything in this position, but not giving up a free pawn. But he plays d5 and gives up the pawn.
Yeah, you can tell Norm's probably not comfortable doing nothing.
And
He wants to make a pawn break, and look, he see here he wants to make a pawn break. So even though it drops a pawn, he makes the break, and then
and
later he's going to
and
play g5 because he wants to do something. So if you're wanting to do something, you can actually kind of sometimes hurt your own position.
yes, but why do you do such things when you're low on like time with 6 minutes? Like it's like move 28 and he has lost all the time.
Mm.
Okay, if nothing works out, just play f5 for anything. I mean, just play rook b8, rook c8, rook d8, and just keep repeating that. Why do you blunder a pawn?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's another good point. If you're low on time, it's really not making sense for you to take an equal position and introduce a bunch of dynamics,
And
which
then you play
happens usually.
g5. Like I mean, I understand maybe he's worried about g5, g5, and rook coming in, but there's nothing. It's just d6, and there's nothing after that. He himself plays g5, allowing rook h1, and he thinks that after giving 2 pawns for free, he can survive this after rook h6, which is not likely the outcome. Bishop b6 is also there, and and now why? I mean,
Yeah,
this move is impossible to explain, buddy. This was not happening. Well, like, why on earth you put your rook from open file to a closed file? I cannot understand this game. Can you explain the moves?
yeah, I'm not sure what he's worried about here, but there's a bit of a rating gap here. So Ronan's a good bit higher rated. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, I can explain. I can explain some of Norm's moves by that exact principle earlier. Just being afraid to do nothing. Always wanting to do something. And really chess is kind of more, and probably playing without too much calculation, if I had to guess. Because yeah, you play a move like d5, you just got to calculate what's all the responses, not just kind of um, hope for the best.
I think I'm not sure, but maybe the Ronan's ideas were simple: just wait and let your opponent lose on time. He's down to 2 minutes, and the way he has played the c5, it came from Norman's side. He played g5. It also came from the black side. So white needs to do nothing. So it's now new psychology is just sit tight, and your opponent will offer you something.
Mm-hmm. And
So
based on how
psychological.
the early game, how the rest of the game's working, he's maybe not wrong. Because, and that actually is a good point. We're kind of saying why rookie one that made no sense, but we were also saying d5 and g5 make no sense. So Rona is actually doing what you describe of okay, he's feeling time pressure, he's not sure what to do, but he's not going to make a move that makes his
Yeah.
position worse. He's just going to make a safe move that doesn't do much. And yeah, it's not what you want to do when you got your gas on the pedal, but or your foot on the pedal. But at the same time, can't his position is probably still winning, and he's giving his opponent a chance to make another big mistake with only a minute on his clock.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but last three was extremely funny. Look what he does. He plays rook to h1, then he plays rook to d1, and then he plays rook to d1.
Yeah, yeah,
He gives a threat, then he uh, takes it back. Like I'm not one that pawn. I just accidentally played rook to d1. Then he played rook to e1. Then the opponent played rook d7. Okay, with some ideas of making it double, he can play bishop b3, and it's absolutely fine. And then he says, okay, no, 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 I made a mistake. I must exchange one pair of rooks. And he goes rook d1. So last three moves are like this, this, and this.
I feel like that happens a lot in classical games too, where if you look at all the moves in sequence after they're all played, it just feels so silly. But you're sitting there calculating, and each one has some reason why you liked it better in that specific variation, But then you string them all together, and you're like, why didn't I just come up with a plan to start? Uh, but yeah, and sometimes you just get funny things too. I actually This reminds me of a random game I just played though. It was Philidor Philidor Queen exchange at the start, and then I tried to do the niche idea, pull my knight back to b1 from c3, so I can play c3 against his knight c6. But then he ended up playing. He's like, "What are you doing playing knight c3?" He played b5, maybe playing against knight c2, knight c4, and then later I ended up playing a4, a take. He played c6, ab4, and anyways,
Yeah, I'll just
yeah,
show the moves. Yeah, so that the viewer gets idea about the game. And okay, it was pretty common until Norman got into time pressure, and then it was all entertainment. Okay, this B3 was also I don't know what to call it. But then the impact of B3 was so good that the opponent just blundered.
yeah. b3 makes really you're just killing your own bishop.
Uh, and I'm telling you, very soon we will also, okay, we did witness this rook going up and down, but now this rook is also going to like have a walk around if on the first rank before it gets to d1. So now let's see. Now I'm down to 30 seconds here. Okay, can you guess the blunder?
Well,
Think it
yeah, we
just
all make them. We're down to the increment. I've made a few too many myself. So yes, but players getting the pressure. It's the end of the night. This is when the mistakes happen.
mhm, not really happening. Bishop takes d2. Can I play? Wow. So there's one funny tactic here. So if Ronan tries to be smart with bishop b6, no, Norman can have very good tactic here. Bishop takes g4. Okay, if you capture this, this is there. And if you capture this, thinking that you are winning a piece, then actually you are lost the game because the bishop takes f3. Losing a queen, you must capture, and now with d2, suddenly black wins.
Crazy.
So this could be a this. Okay, no, but as I said, we're gonna have the rook walk. The rook is going to walk around before it comes to the final destination. All right, let's have a quick look at the other games as well. We have Joel with black pieces here playing against Region. Game from the open section, I believe.
Yep.
Some kind of irregular French. Going into one of the main lines later. A very simple position for white to play on. Just make castle, attack black king.
I feel like has this already gone well for black though with knight takes c6? I feel like he's gonna get nice position.
Center. Yeah, black is absolutely fine. Like he's doing good. And guys, if you want to play queen to e2, just do it right over here. Don't do it after bishop comes to a6. Like, makes no sense. And there's no threat of bishop b4. If black wanted to really play bishop b4, he would have gone here. But if he plays a5, it means he doesn't want to do bishop e7, bishop b4. He just wants to get bishop a6. So if you want to play, just play queen e2 here. No point playing queen e2 after black plays bishop a6.
I mean, you could even he wants to play pawn takes. So I guess that makes sense. But if you want to play queen a2 there, you could even play bishop takes a6, rook takes, and then queen e2 with the tempo on the rook, right?
Yeah, white just lost so many moves. Like he played some queen d1, queen here, then capture, then again pushing 3 moves, then again this 4 move, then again the bishop coming back. So white has wasted like 5 moves, and that's why he's gonna lose this one, I believe. Black could have simply castle and played f6 or f5, in my opinion, keeping
Yeah.
it simple. Or just taking advantage of development. But instead, he went a4, trying to fix points there.
Yeah, I feel like
And
there's this psychological issue at the club level of not castling and in classical games, and I think it's they're worried about getting attacked. But the problem is look at Rook H1, look at Rook H8. You know that's the full piece that's not going to participate in the game until you castle. And really, it's just a reality that you got to calculate attacks. So you maybe feel like your king is not going to get mated when it's in the center with a bunch of pieces around it, and I castle that to the king side, and my g7 bishop's gone, and he's going to get his queen in there and mate me, but it doesn't matter. You got to just continue to calculate, defend those mates, and because you need to be able to use all your pieces, including your kingside rooks.
so I have one suggestion for the club level players or the open section players. Maybe next month or the next event, we could either organize a no castling chess event for them, or we could organize an event with lesser time control. Let's say if you have 90 plus 30 for the main event, we could give them 45 or 60 minutes for the whole game. Because I don't see any of them, thinking so long and making use of time. It's just psychological things are going on, or they're not canceling either. So I think if players agree, have mutual understanding that let's just play without no canceling, it would be even more exciting and interesting games. Because anyway, they don't want to follow theory. So and imagine if they play even theory without canceling chess, it would be totally different game. So maybe you can try it once.
Yep, gotta use your time in chess, and then you gotta get your king safe. That's core principle. So yeah, really, just for everyone who maybe is not totally getting at what we're talking about here, why both sides here kind of making a lot of moves that break opening principles because they didn't complete all their development in castle before engaging a bunch of middle game plans. So you really want to just, but at the same time, earlier you did have a point where sometimes you need to break that, right? Like John, for example, just autopilot castled, and he probably had a chance to play knight g5, right? But
Yeah.
that would be breaking opening principles. So it's not autopilot, like, uh, but at the same time, it is what you usually want to do, and should be your default.
And in the game we saw black did play queen a6 castle, improve his pieces, and white did just moving pieces up and down. Whether white could have simply played knight e2 or queen e2 and castle on the next move itself. But look at the last few moves of white. He's not playing this, not playing this, not even playing this. Okay, after this also he can play, but no, he wants to play queen c2. Then he wants to play some rook b1, which has no idea. Like from the close file, you move the rook to your close file, and there's nothing like you cannot play b3, a3 hangs always, and then c4 is coming. I don't know what he's doing.
Not feeling the urgency, so what he's showing there is you need to realize I need to get my king castled, so I need to block this diagonal that the queen is stopping my king from castling with either knight e2 or queen e2, which now my king can castle. So that should be my priority in the position, not thinking about rook b1, b3, or b4, or other plans, right? Step one
Or
is finish your opening.
definitely, I mean, it's very, very important. Or you can at least try to make something out of h4, h5. And if you play h5, then you try to bring your rook from h3, g3, and at least try to hit here and make a draw. Because if you play like this, eventually you're going to lose. The c5 is going to come, knight c4 is going to come, rook c4 is going to come, f6 might come. There are so many options for black to improve position. But why does black sacrifice this in exchange?
Because he's getting a fork afterwards, so he's thinking.
Yeah, but I mean, why to give two pieces for no reason?
Mm-hmm. So that's another dynamic to realize. Uh, two pieces are worth more than a rook, so it's really not worth it in general. To
And also, you allow a forced checkmating knight to your king. Like,
the pieces,
why? Simply why?
if you got the choice in your game, you should pretty much always go for the pieces. And you maybe won't win all those games, right? You maybe it takes some practice to learn how to use the two pieces against the rook, but two pieces beat a rook. It's that simple. So do not sack two pieces for a rook, and do not worry about it.
Is it mated? No,
I mean,
not yet, right?
there's always exceptions. I mean, I'm sure there's a someone's going to show me a game now where the rook outplays the two pieces beautifully, but in general, it's not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. In general, guys, two pieces are stronger than a rook. And one fun line to explain here is queen d3. You try to play h3, h4 something because there's back rank threat. He captures, you play queen f6. He captures this as well. And now, after so much sacrifices, you deliver a checkmate.
Yep,
So this
unstoppable
could
mate.
happen. So he went queen b6, and that was his idea. So if queen f6, he wanted to play rook b1,
Or
and
maybe queen d8. But yeah, I guess no, he doesn't have time yet. Not after queen
yeah,
d6.
but he why didn't play this? This was just winning on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think he missed the idea of 91.
Mm-hmm. He's worried about back rank.
Just 91 and it's a checkmate. Like there's nothing. And pretty sure both the players missed this and played h3 for the reason, and he gets 28. And oh come on, we have a game now again. And this is now again winning for white. Just knight c5, bishop e3, and then he will improve his king.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is where this might not be default mode for white, considering this is open section and guys are still learning their endgames and stuff. But this is technically winning for white completely.
And the thing he needs to do here is just, I mean, not to play this, all this. He could have just tried with g4 and then like this, because then you attack the weakness. You should not allow generally the opponent to make a break quarter. Then it becomes harder to break, just like we discussed some time ago. And he allowed this, and after that, f4 is terrible. Like you just need to improve your king and just go up as long as you can, and then try to do something with knight or like this. So it's very simple. You just need to have a king walk, try to attack the weakness, knight g8, and in the end up 7. So this is the only weakness remaining. And this is a crystal clear plan for me. But if you play f4, then you're simply making the rook stronger, because now the rook can attack the bishop, create problems, or can cut off the king, attack the pawn. After this one, white is not winning anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we do
Oh,
see.
come. Uh, come and
Well,
discuss. I mean,
so Joel, look at his time. He was on. He played that move with seconds to spare. So,
okay. Okay, nothing to say about this. Mm,
but yeah, we can see he was actually not on the path to converting that two pieces versus a rook correctly. So probably do want to study that one a bit. But it's something you should go for in practice, and even if um, you don't convert it every time.
I would say a free giveaway from Joel's side. It was completely winning game for. I mean, it was completely better position for him
Mm-hmm.
with all this pawn structure and everything beautifully placed. Just needed to play some c5, knight c4, and get the job done. But instead, he did everything wrong, like starting with this, and eventually blundering to knight d7. All
Yeah,
right, we cannot do much about it. There's no solution for blunders, no medicine for blunders. If you blunder, you blunder. That's it.
yeah, and that's actually why I'm not totally active right now because I have a big blundering problem. So trying to solve a lot of puzzles to fix that, and that is really how you solve blundering and fixing calculation problems. I mean, playing of course helps too. I should be playing, but puzzles is really where you go to hone your tactics and get that practice calculating, but also just practice
Gu-
with patterns. You need all these patterns already in your head. So,
Absolutely, guys. If you want to reduce blunders in your game, you should at least practice puzzles for 30 minutes every day. If you do it for more time, 45 minutes an hour, it's excellent. But at least try to do for 30 minutes. If you do not do, then the blunders will keep happening, and instead of the blunder ratio going down, it will keep on going up, increasing and causing more pain to you guys. So do solve puzzles. If you do not solve puzzles, blunders will happen. Before you go to the last two boards of open section, I thought let's just quick check this board, because we have seen a lot in this game. As I said, the rook will have walk before coming to d1. 2 pawns up for white. In the end, he plays a5, a4, c4, takes. And now, yes, the position is winning for white, but black will have something maybe like this. and try to give some checks to the exposed king. But yes, white is winning. So let's go to the game which has ended between Michael and Picus Jacob,
Yep, Jacob, and he was one of the qualifiers for Minnesota Closed reserve section. So congratulations to Jacob.
playing the modern defense. And here Jacob, the right move is d5. And if e5, then you play c5. Because c5 will allow him to play d5 and you don't have good position anymore. But instead he played this and now he gets a good position. Wait, the queen b6 isn't this move winning on the spot? Yes,
This
it is. He did play queen b6 in the game. He gets a pawn. And he plays king f8. He's like, I don't want pawn, I want more material. Why? Okay, I like the way he castled.
yeah, he had the
One of the
opportunity.
best
So he
castles
had the
of the year.
opportunity to play queen takes knight there, right?
But I'm impressed with Jacob's play. This is how you castle, guys. Professional way of making an artificial castle. But the
Yep.
queen got stuck here. Wait, knight b3. If you give a check, he goes to c d2 and so on.
Yeah, I'd still be having some heart palpitations here. I don't like grabbing poison pawns on b2.
Does that
I've
mean
solved.
white can force a draw here by perpetual?
I feel like I've solved way too many puzzles where queen takes b2 ends up being a liability. So it's not the lines I love to go for unless I'm totally still in prep. I mean, if I know it's a trap, I know I'm in prep. I know that queen's getting out of there. Let's do it. But if it's even close to on the edge, it's a no for me.
Yeah, he played well. I think the check was not needed. He could have just continued with knight f6. But yes, you feel a little awkward keeping your queen stuck in something like this. So he gave a check and went back. And more or less, it's a good position for black, but then there are some problems around the diagonal.
So
What if he plays knight c5? Not yet. d1. I don't know. Black is up a pawn, but I like white's position. No, black is not up a pawn. Black is up a pawn, yeah. But the position is very, very promising for white. Like sorry. The simplest thing he could do here is just get the knight like this or like this. Or like this. Let's say he moves the bishop and then c4. And now at some point you would be able to hit something on f6 or e5. Or rook d1 and some pressure here and then you hit here. Or simply just make double. Instead he went for random moves without a plan. And black consolidated. What's the idea? On f7, what he wants? Bishop a2. He defends it, wow. Come on, just play f5. The king is absolutely very, very weak.
and that's gonna also give you space to develop knight f6 behind it.
Yeah. And okay, so Jacob just wanted to exchange and play the endgame. And Michael be like, no, let's fight with queens. Like they played look how many moves just to exchange queens, but it's not happening. And he blunders. Avoiding exchange queens, he blunders the knight, and now it's game over. Because even if you try to play something like queen c8, queen b8 with the last hope of some checkmate, black has simply queen d8.
Yeah. So just some minor advice for Michael. You know, you're only down a pawn. It's not. It's not time to be so afraid to trade queens, right? You can still trade queens and draw the game at some point if you.
Absolutely, you can simply play c4 or takes, and some kind of a c4. You block the bishop. The bishop is not doing that great. You try to attack the knight, and then you try to bring the king, and you just try to hope that you draw this because you're down a pawn. But as I said, in endgame, you will only lose if your opponent could create a pass pawn. And still, it's not like he's creating a pass pawn in like a move or two. It's going to be a game. He has to work hard, find some moves. But if you play like this, you have to design on the next move because if you are down a piece without any attack on the queen, enemy king, then it's lost. Even
Um,
for queen e7, there was 28
jump back to the opening really quick because
of this game.
yeah, this game because I want to just quickly show just the Benoni concepts here. So he played c. So when you play c5 and they've already played d4, it allows d5, and this is kind of Benoni style. Um,
Hmm.
and it's like the positional way to handle if it happens to me in the Sicilian. I'll play e4 c5 knight f3. Maybe they'll play like d6, or maybe they'll play they'll play something, but then they just when I play d4 they just ignore it sometimes, and I just don't
And
think
like
of I don't think about it. Yeah, they'll play, exactly, that's a good example. And I just play d5 exactly, and I take that space in the center, and it's all coming from this traditional position of 1d4, 1c5, 2d5. That's kind of the most classic version of Benoni. But anyways, I just gave a little primer there because I don't actually know what I'm talking about. Besides, Benoni is good for white in general.
yeah.
So, but maybe you can just quickly give everyone a primer on why is it so good? Why when you can do it, you should, and yeah.
And basically, White lost this game because he did not play d5. So this was the first reason. He could have, if he would have played d5, would have simply gained advantage here.
Yeah. So is it mainly because of
And
the space, or what? Why is d5 here so strong?
yeah, because you gain space and you have got complete center control. You just
But
play knight f3, knight c3, c4, whatever. Just develop your pieces. And but when you capture, it's like very simple. The side pawn capture the center pawn, so you lose center control. And white still has central pawns. You don't have this goes under control completely now. He can attack your weaknesses. As I said, as we saw in the game, black was attacking the weaknesses. If you play d5, end of story, end of discussion. No more weaknesses to attack. No more activity for black.
and then the kind of follow up clamp down standard plan is usually, say black plays a6 because they want to get b5 in. You play a4. You don't allow them to play b5, and you want to play like knight d2, knight c4, and really just clamp down on trying to never let them play a6 b5, and never let them play e6 or e5 under good conditions.
Yeah, white just plays c4 and prevents any counterplay, which is coming, or even a4 at times. So this is just good for white. I think we have one more game remaining in the open section, which we did not discuss between Thomas and John, which is still going on in favor of John, I believe, because he has got a good knight. And as you said, we have the position where white has the pass pawn but stuck.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It always looks so glorious or whatever. Like this is going to be my biggest asset ever, but then actually making it work is not always that
Look,
easy.
should be draw with some chances for black. So let's say he plays c5 and try to get this structure. I think white should be able to hold this
Yeah, and the thing is,
because black cannot create a pass pawn.
these are 90 plus 30 games, so these games can go actually really late if both players continue to make a ton of moves. So we're not necessarily going to cover this to the total end if it comes up to the end of the broadcast time, but let's go through the beginning of the game at least.
Yeah, and one plan I wanted to mention here is black can play c5, and the idea is here not to just and like not that, I mean, white cannot play this. That's why we're playing. We want to play this because we want to capture and create a pass pawn. And if this happens, then black can create a pass pawn, and then black can win this game. So this is the black's only winning plan because this is the only way in which black can create a pass pawn. So I believe black has some chances, and white needs to do something. If he just sits tight, he's going to lose this because after take, and it would be difficult for the bishop to prevent this pawns as knight is very, very strong there. Let's see from the beginning to understand how this happened.
Perfect. And we do have one comment from Daryl. Thanks for the commentary. Love learning from you guys. Thanks for viewing, Daryl. We appreciate it. We know we didn't get to see you on DGT this week, but hopefully see you playing again on the DGT board soon.
So thanks for tuning in, guys. And this was Queen's Gambit accepted. We're getting a good position for white and then suddenly making a mistake. Everything was going good until this point, and then white gives the bishop. And again comes back. Look, again, rook e1, rook e4, rook e1 to give up your very good bishop. Instead, what he could have done, simply some kind of a bishop d2 or simply not pushing the pawn. Like, why on earth you push the pawn? Just play bishop g5 or something, or
Yeah, I've got a
just
kind
play
of
s3.
interesting attitude
Anything.
towards the QGA that I'm wondering your perspective on. Yeah, I don't like
And,
playing. Go ahead.
and simplest was probably to play bishop d2, where you just want to replace one piece by another. Even if you play knight c6, you got h3 in time, and he captures, you define both the pawns.
I mean, to me, this looks great for white because black never really got their c pawn involved, and white's got a big center.
Yeah, but here now the problem started. Like if he plays bishop d2, there's knight d4. If he captures on d5 with the bishop, then you lose the key bishop. And the main problem is why this pin is still exists. And that is why he played rook e4, making another mistake, attacking the rook now. And now he's also losing a pawn here. So if he sacrifices a pawn here, maybe it's a nice idea or maybe it's possible. But honestly speaking, with bishop on f5, you cannot deliver a checkmate. It's very, very unlikely. So you understand his mistake. And he captures the knight, giving up the bishop, which makes his positionally or strategically bad, because now for black, it's very easy to play. For white, the main bishop is missing. Like the white's life is without water. So, okay, again, black is just irritating white with bishop g4. Ah, come on, why you are playing this? To get knight f5, knight. Okay.
Yeah, he wants the outpost. Okay, so he had an idea.
Yeah, but this g4 is also okay. So guys, in such positions, it's better to play f6 than stop playing f5. Because when you play f6, you kind of force a trade off the pawns and open up the file. But when you play f5, you're not really opening up the file. Okay, for this, maybe he was scared of queen h4 coming in, hence queen g4, and now it's very, very good position for black. He transferred his knight from this to this to get it here. Yeah, and very good position, I think. Okay, he also allowed this. White clinical so far from black. Exchanging so many pieces in this. And now white should have kept the rook, whatever happens. But instead, okay, so guys, the point is, if you think this is hanging, no. There's a bishop at 6 or there's e6? There's e6, guys. And the idea is to play e7, e8. And if you play knight e4, then the bishop at 6 will come. But what if we do this move? Am I missing something? Maybe like this, bishop a3 check, king e8, rook to e3 attacking the knight, and after you move, there's a checkmate. And if knight d6, maybe something like this, and probably draw.
Looks scary.
But he just decided to play simple, get h5. Okay, h5 could have been more stronger, but he went something like this. And maybe he thought he's winning a piece here, but there was a check. And he got into this endgame where he's still better. I mean, John is still better. Instead of going c5, he went, he prepares c5, he gets it. And that is why I didn't want to play this, like with b6. Well, still it's fine. He's still winning, I believe. He's up a pawn. There's going to be bishop e7 maybe, and knight d7 on knight c4, or even knight d6, knight h4. And but better to defend the pawn because then this will also drop if you try to win the h4 pawn, and then consolidate slowly, slowly. All right. So this is a game between John and Thomas. We already saw this one. We saw this one. So we saw all the games from open section, talking about the premier section. So we had already seen the game between Connor and Dane, which resulted in Connor's victory. About Eddie and Miles, did he lose on time or what? So we had left it here,
Yeah,
and
Eddie was technically winning, so this is shocking.
yeah, that's what. And he could not. He didn't take the pawn, and he pushed f5. Then this also did not happen. Surprisingly, he got the pawns. He went g4. He got this pawn. He got this pawn. He got g4. This, and now this is just a draw. Okay, this is just a draw. But how did he lose? Okay, this is not draw. This is win for white.
So he flagged.
So there are two possibilities. Either the result has been, I mean, accidentally the
No,
players put king on.
I see on the video feed the kings
King.
are on black.
Yeah, that's why. Maybe they accidentally kept the king on e5 and d4 instead of e4, d5. Because what I can see, this is just lost. The a5 is getting lost. The g4 is hanging. Only if I could have lost on time, then
Yeah, maybe he went. Maybe he did flag. I wonder. It's usually
he
DGT
had
error,
38
but
seconds to play this move.
I'm seeing the game results, and
Wow, that
it
is something
actually
crazy. Maybe still white black had one drawing chance here with a4. And the point is, if takes, then rook f2, and if he takes, then we have got rook f3 and some drawing chances in this endgame. But chess is brutal, unfair at
I've
times.
got a random story related to that. My former coach, Alisher Suleimanov, actually
Mhm.
beats 2700 player Artemiev in a similar situation. Artemiev flagged in a classical chess game in a totally drawn position.
Wow.
So it's the only
Such things happen.
it's the only time it's happened to him in his whole career. So it even happens to 2700 players.
I saw, I mean, Ivanchuk losing 3 games in a row on time, but that was at the World Blitz. But if such things happen in classical chess, not to 2700 plus, but to anyone, it's just it's hard to. I mean, it's hard to explain. I mean, those feelings, though. I mean, how can you lose on time in classical chess? Like I even did once, and I was also completely winning, and that costed me a championship. From first place, I went to second place. And I outplayed every single player in the event, and I lost on time. But this was like long back, like some 10 years ago, and that was the only time I lost on time. But and maybe this is the 80th time here
Yep.
playing
Well,
a good game.
he does have over 3100 rated games, so I'm sure this is not the first time it's happened to him. But especially he gets into time pressure almost every game. He almost never flags though. But I guess if you're gonna live on the edge, it's gonna happen eventually.
Okay, it's going to be a tough
I
day
don't
for
even. We
Eddie
don't
here.
even. We're doing a little speculating too. We don't. It could be
Okay.
they could have placed the kings on the wrong colors or something. Uh, so yeah, we'll see.
Okay, so we keep it to the audience to decide what happened in the game. Maybe they will, when they will see, they'll comment or they'll correct us.
Yep.
Or if anyone knows in the chat, maybe they can correct us. But right now, as per the king's position, it's black who has won the game. Talking about Nathan and Thomas, who are okay. So in this game, okay, this was completely winning for white. Sorry, I mean this was completely winning for black, up 2 pawns up, and this ends in a draw. Like he has got knight c3, just get the pawn. He has got rook f4, just get the pawn. But he takes on d5. I think there's some digit error here. Or maybe they played like this, and black offered a draw. surprising. But as per the
Yeah.
DGT,
So he's up a
the
pawn.
game has been
Okay, I can imagine this. Yeah, because towards the end of the night, I've seen Thomas in a couple games. He'll be better and he'll accept a draw or offer one. And then Nathan, I see him play things out a little bit more fiercely. So I'm not surprised that Thomas offered Nathan a draw. I would be surprised vice versa.
for me. It's sort of shock because I can see it's 2 points down and completely winning for black here. Anyways, that's the result, guys. And we saw Robert losing very badly after a very good opening. Yeah, so that's all from the premier section, I believe.
Perfect. Well, I think that's the broadcast for today.
Uh-huh.
We are going to have Nubair back next week to close out the tournament. And then the first 2 weeks next month, we are going to have National Master OK, who's regular weekend tournament winner here, local strong player. So we'll get a bit of local expert talent, or not expert master, coming up in March. But yeah, we'll be hopefully see you guys next week to see how this tournament closes out. And appreciate your time and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night.